You will be presenting our guests. Welcome, Engin. Hello. Well, this session is truly very important for us. Why? Because in the 10-year journey of ATÖLYE, the scenario that we had most imagined was really creating an atelier which stood on its own legs, so creating independent structures. So we were basically trying to reproduce ATÖLYE's model, maybe not directly, not one-on-one reproduction, but creating similar independent platforms sharing more or less the same values. And so we had always asked ourselves these questions over the years, and IMECE and the Teachers Network, starting from our third or fourth year, became very important initiatives. We have actively participated in their creation, and we will now have the chance to listen to two participants who will be sharing us with this entire story. So from IMECE we have dear Zeynep, the manager of IMECE, and on the other hand from the Teachers Network we have the general coordinator, dear Buket. Hello to both of you. Hello Zeynep, hello Buket. How are you? Hello. Well, I think this session should be a real, intimate session where we'll be frankly sharing our experiences. Of course, listening to the success of these examples is very important, especially given a country such as Turkey, where it is very difficult to create and sustain a community. Of course, how did you realize this? But also, what kind of lessons did you draw from these examples? And how can you see the future evolution of these structures? And of course, we can't really assume that our participants know everything about IMECE and Teachers Network. So Zeynep, if you wish, maybe you can introduce to us to the story of IMECE. Well, of course, IMECE is an initiative which tries to come up with sustainable solutions for different social issues, environmental issues, and we are supporting different entrepreneurs and social leaders. As you have said, ATÖLYE was a very important company on this initiative. We were established in 2016 under the leadership of Zorlu Holding. I was in the very first team of IMECE, so since 2016 I've taken up different roles, and in the last 2 years I am responsible for the programs at IMECE. Great. Buket, would you like to give us some information about Teachers Network? I hope that I will be as concise and as understandable as Zeynep, so it's always a challenge for me to explain a Teachers Network in a very concise manner. Well, the Teachers Network is a collaboration and a solidarity network. Teachers face different professional challenges, and we are trying to empower them by creating interactive environments. And together with teachers, we are trying to propose solutions to our challenges in the education system. And of course, the education system is going through a transformation, and we want to contribute to this change together with teachers. We are collaborating with teachers communities and also the other stakeholders who are surrounding these teachers communities. And since its establishment, it has been supported by 6 foundations. And according to current day figures, we have we have received the support from 730 volunteer teachers from more than 60 provinces. And maybe in the second tour I will be entering into more detail. Of course, it's thanks to ATÖLYE that we have initiated our inaugural process. And since 2016, since July 2016, I've worked as the coordinator of our network. Great, Buket, thank you. Well, Zeynep, in IMECE's story, in IMECE's journey, maybe we can go back to the beginning point. So I guess there is no need to use the passive tense. We created a certain framework in the beginning of IMECE, and how did that framework contribute to IMECE's evolution in the context of the creation of communities or empowering these communities? Well, to respond to your question, Maybe I can say the following. So in 2016 we created IMEC, and there were certain values that we strongly held on to. So values that we formulated with you, our founding partners, but also through different activities created by sectors professionals. When I take a look at what we had done back then, I think it was very beneficial, because we wanted to create a social innovation platform, and which would make a contribution to the entire social innovation ecosystem. So an IMEC for everyone. So IMEC doesn't have a boss. IMEC doesn't have any managers who impose certain rules. So we want to collaborate with different professionals from different backgrounds. And we want to collect insights from different beneficiaries and then synthesize them to come up with common solutions. When beginning this entire process, at every step, this was always our motivation, and it's thanks to our interaction with ATÖLYE that we focused on this, because we were established in 2016, and for a period of 2.5 years we were physically present in ATÖLYE. We had our own rooms, and we were a part of an interdisciplinary community. So in every project we always ask us the question, is the design fine? Did we really interact with everyone? Could we really include everyone's ideas? So each initiative went through all of these filters. And so in these filters, so these filters have to be timeless, and for this we created a quintuple set of values. The first value here is empathy. So of course we have a design thinking perspective, so obviously empathy came up as the very first principle. What's our focus here? Through such a perspective, when you tackle with a project, you try to understand all the different aspects of that matter. We try to think of all the living beings who might be impacted from that project, taking into consideration their specific conditions. In the second place, we have inclusion. Since we have a community-based approach, inclusion is of course very important. And in inclusion, we try to create a space for different perspectives from different disciplines and try to include them all. And in the third place, we have a focus on the culture of solidarity. I mean, the Turkish concept of imece is very much in interaction with the culture of solidarity. So we aren't trying to compete with anyone. We are always trying to expand our collaborative network, and in our community with different members, be it individuals or corporations, we try to act together and we try to adopt a collaborative perspective. And of course, as a social innovation platform, we also have an impact-focused perspective. In every initiative, we ask ourselves the question, is it measurable, is it scalable, does it create a sustainable impact? And there is one last value, and it is agility. It is something that we have formulated with you as ATÖLYE, because normally we are an association, and so this has always been our legal structure, but we work like an entrepreneurship, right? Because our team, our in-house team, has such a capacity of adaptation to different programs that I think agility is a very important value. So lots of things has changed in IMEC, but there are certain unchanging principles, as I've tried to underline when speaking about our set of values. Well, of course, once you establish this set of values, everything doesn't suddenly become crystal clear. We have lots of challenges, but maybe I can delve into that later on. Thank you. I think you have really touched upon a very important point, I think, and we can leave it there and then continue with Buket. Well, likewise, on the side of Teachers Network, sharing such values facilitates your activities. On what values was Teachers Network based, and how were they tested by time? Well, in fact, we really had a very challenging process of formation, so I really have to go back to that. Otherwise, I don't think I will be able to explain what's happening today. it matches what Zeynep has indicated. We had a period of formation, establishment, which lasted 1.5 years. And in different education ecosystems, we had lots of experience. But our initiative was a lot more experimental, a lot more transformative. And we really set out on this journey and tried to design the entire process with all the subjects, all the agents of the process. And in time, this has really become an integral part of all of our activities, because the supporters' presence was very important, because we didn't really focus on a specific, concrete outcome. So in 2015, we initiated this process by organizing different workshops together with ATÖLYE through a human-centric approach in order to understand what teachers need. So it wasn't a simple desktop study. And together with the insights that we received through this workshop, we had more or less formulated the what aspect, but then over a period of 1.5 years, we really tried to formulate the answers to the question of how, and we really ran into different walls, different hurdles. But the most important lesson that we drew in this period, thanks to design thinking, was not being afraid of making errors, not being afraid of going back to the scratch, and so we always had this reflex of trying to improve our practices. And in our network right now, one of the most important elements is the principle of not acting alone. So we are a very highly disciplined structure, and this is something which goes back to 2015, 2016. So we had a 6-month period of design-centered thinking workshop, and as a result, we got together with our stakeholders, and we really experienced a very interactive experience. And there, from the interaction between a teacher and an architect, we have initiated a series of workshops, and we began this with a workshop featuring a teacher and an architect, and then this evolved into different professions. This is something that we weren't really used to in the sector of education. I think that that's very important. We really have this mindset of collaboration. This was a huge challenge for us, actually, so we didn't really know how to work with different stakeholders, but now we have really made lots of headway in this sense. What's important here is to continue on this journey together. And it's thanks to these challenging experiences that we have created today's structure. So we set out with the methodology of design-centered thinking, but from a certain point onwards, the teachers said, we really need to translate this into teacher language. Okay, you are speaking about great things, but we have to translate into the experience of education. How can we implement this? And so from our community, dear Derya Tombuloğlu tried to manage this translation. So as a community, you really have the chance to interact with different disciplines to create your own language for your own community. So from that point onwards, one of our most important gains was enhancing our resilience, in my view. Likewise, adapting a multidisciplinary perspective on collaboration, learning from different processes. So from a very general perspective, I think these were our most important learnings. And as of today, the Teachers Network is constituted of multiple communities. It's not a single community. And we are actually actively trying to construct a community-based model. And today, so we have created communities which have multiple impacts on society. So when I go back to 6 or 7 years ago, I think that in both of your stories there was something common. And actually, Mert also spoke about this. In his presentation, he said that strengthening relations creates its own value, and communicating that value isn't very simple. Defending that value isn't so simple, and showing patience during the creation of that value isn't simple either. Because in a climate of uncertainty, you have to reflect upon this, and you don't really know where you are going towards, but through the strengthening of those ties, you get the sense, wherever I might be going, I'm going together with these people. You get the sense of community. Actually, we were chatting about this with Zeynep a couple of days ago. So we are always, emphasizing the importance of community. And in order to convince different people, we always use this analogy of gardening, because you start working on a garden, you till the garden, you plant different plants, whatever, you have to irrigate it, but sometimes the best thing to do is not over-irrigating, but rather watching, observing, because you have to take into account the impact of rain, sun, whatever, and then you see the emergence of saplings, etc., and then slowly they will transform into fruits. But this entire process corresponds to an exponential curve, which opens up in a period of 4 or 5 years. And in both of your stories, I think I have seen the same thing, working together in a disciplined way, in a much more rapid manner, is crucial, and this entire process of learning together is a huge investment for the future. But what were the shadows of all of this? I mean, the fact that you have set out with such a process, did it have any handicaps concerning the evolution of your institution, or in terms of explaining the raison d'etre of your institution to other institutions? Because in the business community, everyone demands fast statistics, rapid results, whether we like it or not. That's the perspective of the business community. So I would like to hear your take on that aspect of the issue. I can begin if Buket, you would allow me. Of course. Well, when thinking about the challenges of the process, I mean, if we start discussing the difficulties, it will really take a lot of time. But because when it comes to impact-focused, community-led structures such as ourselves, stakeholders are very different. We can't translate everything into data. Our success cannot be translated into ones and zeros. Sometimes you really have to wait. As you've said, we have to wait for the seeds to turn into saplings and then into fruits, whatever. You have to create the space and time necessary for that. But in other projects, you can also create more rapid impact. You have to convince every single stakeholder, and then you really have to understand with which stakeholders you can go forward. And this is a huge challenge. Maybe I can share an example with you to better illustrate my point. At IMECE, we have different entrepreneurship programs. For example, we had an entrepreneurship program on high-quality education or gender equality, and there we got together with great institutions, associations, private sector actors who really have wonderful projects. And actually our very first advantage was bringing together these stakeholders in co-creation projects, trying to understand bottlenecks, trying to understand where the needs lie, what do students demand, what do women, what do girls demand. So we really try to understand these issues from different perspectives, and then all of these stakeholders create an immense insight on your table. So you really get information from different angles. You really need lots of space, but you have to come up with a single program, and you have to synthesize all of that. And obviously you can't really afford to break anyone's heart and create a lean model. But it's very complicated, because in the beginning you have invited everyone is involved, they have invested their time, and and how will you continue with the program without breaking anyone's heart, without making sure that no one is alienated? How can you translate all of this into a singular fruit? So in our journey as IMECE, this was the challenge for us. Why in the beginning? There is another reason why it is much more complicated for our industry, because the people who work in this industry are really invested in this, because this is a social issue. These people are target oriented, and these people have their own values, and everyone really holds on to their values with a lot of strength. So listening to everyone's opinion and then synthesizing those opinions isn't always very easy, because you have to make them feel that their presence is very precious. So these are some of the challenges that we had faced in this process. Buket, on your side, what can you say? Well, of course, what kind of challenges did we have in the beginning? I've already touched upon some of them, but to expand a bit more, I mean, I think we should also be focusing on what was good. When you initiate your project with lots of stakeholders. This has maybe more to do with our method of receiving support. We were supported by 6 major foundations. Actually, these foundations and lots of supporters really want clear-cut processes, which can be translated into concrete impact. How, X thousand students, so many teachers, etc. And so our supporters in this sense have really created us a lot of space. They really showed us lots of patience, and so it is closely associated with our method of initiating this project, because after you accept entering into this experiential and creative process, you can actually abandon it. So powered by that process, we have enjoyed this patience on behalf of our foundations, because I understand that obviously we have lots of interactions with corporate supporters. We are trying to multiply, diversify our finances. So 700. Of course, we have 700 teachers, and sometimes they say us, we are speaking about a community of 1 million teachers, but it's only over time and over concrete results that you can really show your donors and supporters that these 700 people have an impact on the entire community of 1 million people. So communicating our impact was a lot more complicated for us. So we really had to communicate that this impact is something that is community-based. So bringing together lots of logos is meaningless. If you can't really establish a true collaboration, the co-presence of all these logos isn't really meaningful. And in order to go there, you really need lots of patience. And if you allow me to go back to our initial philosophy. So, independently of the issue that you're working upon, irrespective of the matter that you're focusing on, you have to collaborate with the real agents of that issue. You cannot speak on behalf of them. So you have to build from bottom top. You cannot create a hierarchical structure. You shouldn't go for the most rapid results. When you think about teachers' empowerment, everyone speaks about providing training to teachers. How many teachers have received that training? So many teachers. But is that really meaningful? What really counts is whether this has had an impact on their lives or not. So what we experience here is the solutions created by all these challenges. Whenever we were challenged in a field, we really focused on that. We tried to come up with creative solutions, and in our structure we have a total different concept of community building. So learning communities are something we think that we know, but we merged it with networks, and bringing these two together was enriching but also challenging. And there is a sort of structure that we call autocratic structure. I hope I'm not taking up too much of your time, but maybe further on I can delve into more details. So as Zeynep has indicated, in the environment you have to be very agile, and you also have to be collaborative. And through our autocratic structures, we try to respond to that. Well, we don't really have too much time, but maybe we can share a link with our participants. There are lots of interesting web articles on autocratic organization, etc. Well, let me ask you yet another question, and we have received one question from our listeners. By the way, if our listeners have further questions that they would like to ask, they can feel free to pose those questions. Well, we've spoken about the past, and if we approach today and maybe turn towards the future, let's say in the coming 5 years, how will your community, how will your platform lay its roots in an even more stronger manner, and what kind of new steps that you should be taking? Actually, there's something that I forgot. You didn't hear me? Okay, I can repeat if you wish. No, I understood what you were saying. Well, this is my response. Well, as I've said in the beginning, the set of values is very important, and I think these two issues are closely interrelated. So, what values should stay with us in the coming 5 or 10 years, and what aspects should we transform? So, I think these two aspects are crucial, and they are closely related to the set of values that I've mentioned at the beginning, because in the process we have observed lots of important changes. First of all, I can give you a direct answer. I think we shouldn't be afraid of change whenever you engage in a specific sort of work. When we speak about structures like ourselves, of course, in our day and age, there is lots of uncertainty, and finding your way in the context of these uncertainties warrants a very strong set of values and a team which is not afraid of change. So you might have come up with a solution in the beginning of the year, but maybe throughout the year you might have to transform that solution because important historical changes have taken place in the year. So adapting to change is very important. I think adaptability to change is very important in all industries. Sometimes you really have to, sense those weak signals coming from different parts of the industry, and it's only in this way that you can correctly position yourselves in the industry. And at İMECE, in different processes, we have always tried to focus on the realities and the dynamics of the local. Obviously, you cannot do this only as your own team. You need different stakeholders, you need your community in the ecosystem, and your learnings from this experience should be merged with the learnings coming from a more global level. So you have to blend these, global and local learnings. We cannot rely only on our mentality to come up with solutions, and neither can we take something from the global scene to adapt it directly into the local scene. So you have to blend the global and the local. So we really have to stick to those values, I think. And in the foundation of İMECE, so we had organized this workshop in ATÖLYE, and Engin, you had told me something that I use in every presentation. Actually, we should be focusing on, I think we should be falling in love with not the ways of solution, but rather with the questions, because every time we have to go back to the problem, the question, to design and redesign solutions through a design-centered thinking. Where did we commit an error? Should we go back to scratch? Whatever. So we shouldn't be afraid of this. So my message is we really have to stick to these important values. Well, I think change will rather come from our modus operandi, from our working methods. I observe important changes in our working methods, and this will accelerate further in the coming 5 or 10 years, especially during the earthquake. We have all seen, which communities and which associations took the most rapid action. So entrepreneurship and innovation are really guiding the modus operandi of large companies. I think going forward, target-centered practice together with communities will really transform our business practices. Thank you, Zeynep. You really capped it with a wonderful sentence. I think I can write it down and maybe use it as a quotation somewhere. Thank you. Well, I know that we don't have too much time, but let me wrap very quickly, Engin. Well, for the future of the Teachers Network and for the future of similar associations, I have a couple of observations that I would like to share with you. In the field of education, academic studies underline the importance of community-focused organization, community-led solidarities. So, I think we really should support the formation of local committees, local groups. We have to multiply such models. We cannot limit ourselves to specific project focus initiatives with a huge impact. We should rather multiply projects with multiple impacts. And I think that this is something that will enrich the future of the Teachers Network. Why? Because when it comes to fundraising, we really had a lot of difficulty explaining this. When we think about the field of education, we should not limit ourselves to projects. We should rather focus on initiatives which will continue over time and create a larger impact over the years. And sustainability shouldn't be limited to the sustainability of only the association or institution in question, but rather the sustainability of different policies. So we should, really engage in the political advocacy of our messages, and I think such efforts will ensure the multiplication of similar initiatives in the future. Well, formations such as ourselves really should find the space to express themselves. So being here in this platform was very beneficial for us at the Teachers Network during the earthquake, so in the crisis of environments, or likewise in the, during the pandemic. The teachers of Teachers Network gave great reactions. I mean, their stories are incredible. I wish I had the time to share those stories with them, because I think those stories can really set an example for the entire society. Thank you, Buket. Well, there is one question from our listeners, but we don't really have time. It comes from dear Seçil Aydoğdu. So, dear Seçil, maybe you will have the chance to address that question to Zeynep and Buket separately. Simply, we don't have enough time. Well, dear Buket and Zeynep, at ATÖLYE we have this plan. When we speak about community-centered design, I think we really feel the need to discuss this in a more multi-vocal manner, because this isn't something that belongs only to ATÖLYE, neither to HBR. Maybe we should think about this as a hashtag under which everyone can express themselves. And so you have said that you really need to share your stories in different platforms, dear Buket, and you can be sure that we will be multiplying such platforms. Thank you, Engin. Thank you. And now let me turn to our dear moderators, Engin and Serdar.